What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the show. Today is a special treat for you guys. I have Tech and Sports, and I've been trying to get this man on the show for a long time because he is a true legend. There's so much to say about this guy. He recently only came out of incognito status on the internet, and nobody really was able to see his face except for people that were in his Patreon group. But I'm super stoked to have him on the show today, gracing us with his presence, his actual face. You guys got to see what he looks like. But I got to intro this guy, okay? He is the #1 eBay seller for basically all men's clothing categories. That's a big accolade. He's the #1 top seller in men's clothing on eBay, shipping out over 300 items daily, which is crazy. You look at this guy's shipping piles and it's unbelievable what he's doing on a daily basis, posting roughly the same 250 items per day, every day, Monday to Sunday, 7 days a week. He also has other businesses. He has a massive yard and tree service business in Florida. He is now getting into real estate investing. He has a vintage clothing store on top of all that. The guy is just a hustler. So what are you going to get out of this episode? You're going to get massive, massive knowledge about reselling in general, especially reselling on eBay. You're going to get massive, massive motivation. This guy will motivate you to get off your ass, kill your death pile, and finally get crushing it in whatever area of reselling you are in, whether that's owning a store, whether that's selling on Whatnot. He also sells on Whatnot daily, I believe. His store goes live on Whatnot daily. So this guy is just the most consistent crusher out there. 15 years of just crushing it every day, no days off, he says. And he's just a good guy. We talk about his motivations in life. We talk about what he's up to after his eBay retirement, because he's slowing down on eBay because he's basically conquered it. He's conquered it. He's done. He's made enough money to pretty much retire. So what's next for him? Super exciting episode. This is one you're going to need to listen to the whole thing. We went for over 3 hours on this bad boy. So once again, if you listen to the podcast, you know this is the free 45-minute version. We're going to give you free 45 minutes here on YouTube or on your podcast app. But if you want to continue listening to the whole episode, you got to jump on the Patreon. So I'm going to say this right now. Just go jump on the Patreon now because you need to listen to this episode. It is one where you will definitely benefit. The Patreon is $5 for the month, and you get a free 1-week trial, okay? Listen to this. I'm going to be raising the price of the Patreon. I'm going to be adding a bunch of new features. So everyone who gets in at the $5 tier will remain full access at the $5 tier, but you're going to want to get in now. You're going to want to lock in your spot because I'm going to be adding a bunch of new features in the new year, and you want to lock in at $5 because it won't be $5 forever. Inflation, am I right? I also guarantee 100x your $5 investment. You will make $500 off your $5 investment by listening to the episodes, by learning what all the guests have to say, by learning the tips and tricks of literally the best in the vintage clothing business. Hands down, that's what you're going to get. So go sign up. This is an amazing episode. I don't want to keep you guys on this intro too long. I do have one more announcement to make, which is we opened up a new store in Vancouver. So anybody who's listening to this show who lives in BC, lives in Vancouver, go check out our new F as in Frank Gastown location, 302 Cordova Street. It's only been open for about a week. Really beautiful space. Really proud of what we did there. Also, we've partnered with Amy in Whistler. So if you're skiing in Whistler this winter, or if you live there, or at any point you ever go to Whistler, you got to go check out our F as in Frank location there, which is in Sundial Place across from Mongoli Grill. It's currently Velvet Underground, but we will be switching over to F as in Frank very shortly. We've partnered with Amy from Velvet Underground, and we are combining the two companies. And it's exciting times of growth for our company. So super stoked to have you guys on listening. Also, before we get into this, please just help me out and go like the video and subscribe to this channel. That's all I'm going to say. Do it now or you're dead to me. Let's get into the episode.
Vintage clothing by the
All right. Tech, welcome to the show. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. I know this was a long time in the making. We've been trying to get together, I think literally for years, but life gets in the way. And for a long time, I never showed my face on YouTube or anything. So I wanted to do the podcast with you properly, not just audio only, but hopefully it's worth the wait. But as always, you know how much I appreciate you and everything you've done for everybody and the path that you and your family have laid for all of us. And, I could go on, which, you just know how much I appreciate you and I am beyond happy to be here.
Thank you for that. Well, it's my turn to give you your intro, man. Thank you for that. You're right. You didn't show your face for a long time, so this is great that we're able to do this because we almost ran it with just audio a long time ago. And if
Yeah.
you remember, we put up well, you had posted something, and I said if we can get 100 likes on this comment, Tech needs to come on the podcast. And I think that post like maybe has the 100 likes now. So
Yeah.
I'm excited to be here. So, for people that don't know who you are the number one seller in men's in your niche in men's clothing on eBay in the world. Is that
Yeah,
correct to
in the
say?
entire world. Yeah, for pre-owned men's clothing in all the pre-owned men's clothing categories, shirts, sweaters, jackets, pants, shorts, hats, button-ups, it doesn't matter. If you name the men's clothing category, I have been number one on eBay in the entire world for well over 10 years.
Yeah, that's an amazing accolade. So congrats on that. So we're going to dive into a lot about that. But I've seen the piles. Like you ship 300 a day. You guys are posting 300 a day, or maybe more. I think each employee you have, I've heard, can do
So
300 a day.
Yeah, so at the peak of the business, and I've kind of scaled back because I plan on retiring come this August from the eBay machine. Because I'm no longer on the come up. I have a couple of things in place that I do very well. I have been very fortunate, and eBay and reselling has played a humongous part in that, and that's why I love eBay and reselling as so much because they have helped catapult myself and my family into different places where we wouldn't be able to be outside of, buy something for $4 and sell it for $25 and do that hundreds of times every single day. So at the peak of the business, February 11th, I had 53,000 items. We were selling well over 100,000 items a year on eBay. We were listing 250 7 days a week. We were selling 250 orders 7 days a week. So sometimes it would go from 250 sales. And if there were a lot of multiple orders, maybe even up to 300 or more. And this was 7 days a week, never stopped, never missed the listing goal, never compromised. The result was the same every single day. And, eBay is a beautiful thing. And I wanted to build a machine that never stopped. And I built a machine that never stopped and had sales 24 hours a day. And, accomplished everything that I wanted to do. I never set out to do eBay to make the most money. I always set out to do eBay to have the best eBay store. And I feel
Yeah.
like that I accomplished that for, you know, 10 years in a row, world champion, best eBay store. And for me, everything that I do, I want to try to do the best of my ability. So it was just time to, take on a new challenge, take on, new opportunities. And if you strive to be the best at something, the money will always come. You don't have to worry about that. So I never worried about chasing money. I never worried about chasing that. It's just, I try my best every single day. I wanted the best eBay store. I did it. I even started a group to kind of cultivate some challengers.
I
And here
love
I
that.
am.
I love that mentality. Be the best at what you want to do. Don't chase the money. The money will come. There's
It
your
will
first
always come.
tidbit. There's your first tidbit, everybody.
Yeah, it will
That's great
always come.
advice.
Like how can you not be the best at something and the money doesn't come? Like if you are the best tiddlywink player, you will make money. Like you could start a YouTube channel about the best tiddlywink tricks and you will make money from that. But
True
no
enough.
one starts out doing tiddlywink tips and tricks for the money.
Yeah, 100%. Um, wow. So we're already diving in here, and eBay is not the only thing you do as well. We know you from, I know you now from the group, and I know you now from your personality within the reselling community because you are quite large. A lot of resellers know you. You're like famed in the reselling community. I will say this.
Oh boy.
And we did business with you back in the day, and I want to talk about that before I even knew actually your accolades and your business portfolio per se. So to touch on your business portfolio, you obviously, like you've just said, you are the number one men's resale clothing seller on eBay, but you also have a vintage clothing store. You also wholesale vintage clothing and secondhand clothing, I'm assuming. You
Mm-hmm.
also have another business where you are have an arborist business. Is that correct
A
to
tree
say?
service, yeah. A
Tree
tree
service
service
business.
and a landscape service. I
Uh,
have a
and
little
that,
computer repair service that I've been doing for over 15 years. Yeah, I got a lot of things going on, but all of that stuff, I've always lived off the eBay money. My family and I always live off the eBay money, and it produces way more than we can spend. I mean, as you can see, like, we're not fancy. I'm in an empty room here. So like, I don't have or want or like go after the flashy stuff. So like, we've always lived off the eBay money. The eBay money has been the driving force behind my investments, the driving force behind growing other businesses, and all the money that the eBay business kicks off, all the money that the other businesses kick off, I push all of that towards real estate. And I've been doing real estate for, probably 10 or 12 years. I have a good amount of stuff. And, that's the opportunity that I'm going to put my full attention to come August. Because with the real estate, you can just keep moving the goalposts back. And that's the challenge that I need. I need to keep running up the scoreboard, and I need to keep pushing the goalposts back. And with eBay, I push the goalpost back as far as possible until, I just need to win at more stuff and be the best that I could be at more stuff. And I think that real estate is kind of like that never ending battle, because you can dominate real estate at 90 years old. You know what I mean? So like, that's the
yeah.
challenge that I'm looking for. But yeah, like you said, I have a brick and mortar store. I do some wholesale. I still have the eBay store running. I got the group. I have a little computer repair company. I got 3 guys over there that do that. They do in-house. We also do, which was the best thing for that business, is one day a lady came in. She needed help with data migration because she got a new computer. So she wanted to move her old pictures of her grandkids to her new computer. And we did a fantastic job on that. And she happened to live in a retirement community. So I'm from South Florida. And we have these large retirement communities over here. They're like
Of
Winmore or
course.
Century
Yeah.
Village. So like, she lived in Century Village, and we did a great job on her computer. And she posted it in the clubhouse on the corkboard. Dude, my business blew up after that. Every single old timer in Century Village was calling us. So now like, we teach classes on like how to send emails and like do all of that kind of stuff like in Century Village. So like, that worked great. And then I started a landscape company, cut grass, install landscape, install trees, things like that. We have 300 houses. And then I have a tree service where, we cut down trees, and we also do hurricane cleanup too. So um, it's crazy. And also, what's crazy is that eBay has always been my hobby. So eBay was something that I always did after work. And for a very long time, especially before the shutdown, I was working cutting down trees every single day. I was working cutting grass every single day. And then I would come home and list 120 items every single night. And there's posts in the group till 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, and then wake up and do it every single day. After the shutdown, when sourcing tightened up, I moved into the current model that I have, where I did a lot more networking. And before the shutdown, I didn't talk to anybody. I was 100% lone wolf. Nobody knew who I was. I kept a very
Yeah.
low profile. When all the stores started closing, I started networking with other resellers, networking with people from the flea market. And then they started bringing me product. And then that was the business that I ran from the shutdown all the way until February 11th, when I started scaling back.
So this eBay business. Okay. So I have a few. I mean, I had a question about your portfolio. So you've kind of clarified your whole portfolio for us. Now you've said your portfolio, the heavy gross revenue of your portfolio is the eBay store, from what I'm hearing.
No,
No,
that's just what we live off of.
that's what you
All the
live
other
off. Okay.
money, yeah, all the other money, like the tree service, I don't touch that. That just goes into real estate. The brick and mortar store does great. I don't touch that. That goes into real estate. We live off of the eBay income, and all those other businesses. It's like an infinite money loop almost. Like, you create this money, you put it into assets, the assets create more money, and you buy more assets. Like, it is literally an infinite money loop at a certain point. But in order to do that, you have to humble yourself and keep your costs down. So like, I have a tremendous amount of revenue that comes in. I drive a 2014 Honda Accord. I have a very, very nice house, a very nice house. I have like no furniture. So like that materialistic stuff doesn't matter to me. Like a lot of times, especially, I talk to a lot of people in the group, they get a big sale and they go out to Sizzler and get the steak dinner, and that sets their business back. And as
Yeah.
a reseller, it taught me every time I spend $4, I'm really spending $25. Because every time I can spend four, I know I could sell it for 25. And then once you get into real estate, every single time you spend $1, how much will the bank give you?
Yeah,
You only have to
totally.
put down 20%. So you spend
Yeah.
$1, you're really spending five.
Yeah.
So as a reseller, like it trains your brain to like you really have to be thrifty and you really have to be smart with your money. Otherwise, that $4, you really stole $25 from your business by doing something that was extracurricular or maybe not really necessary. So if you do that on $100, that's $400. You do that, it just compounds. And maybe that stuff is important for some people, and I get it. No shade, no harm, no foul. It's just that's just how my mind works. Is that
And
you
so,
really have to be
speaking of this, like
careful.
you're saying, the materialistic things don't matter to you. You're in a room with no furniture right now, but you're in a nice house, and I'm sure that's part of your investment portfolio. Why wouldn't you want a nice house? You live in Florida.
Well, I
What is?
moved here so my son can go to a good school. Outside of that, I would still be in the hood. Like I'm not afraid of that. But I
Yeah.
had to move
Okay.
him out to put him into a good school.
I heard you say that actually on some other podcast, and I was like, it made me grateful for where I live for one thing, because I live in a small town where like all the schools are good. Because I've thought about moving out of this town as of late to go somewhere, but then I'm like, fuck, there's so many challenges to moving. Like,
Really
I'm just
hard.
gonna wait till they're done high school to if I'm
Yeah.
gonna move, because like we're in such a good scenario for the kids.
Yeah.
I want to ask you about your wife. Your wife is, it's you guys travel together. Like, it seems like you're slowing down and you're traveling more and you're spending more time with your family. Again, this is just my quick browse through your YouTube persona and seeing what you're up to. But how does she feel about being humble and frugal and investing money? Is she with you on that path? So, if you're still here, if you're listening and you're liking what you're hearing and you're enjoying this episode, what you're going to do down below on the YouTube, there is a join button. Join and go get the full 3+ hour episode, or in the show notes, Patreon. Jump on there and get your free week trial and listen to the full 3 hour episodes. Okay? Just do it now so you don't have to get interrupted again. Back to the episode.
Yeah. So my wife, at one point in time, was going to medical school, and I somehow convinced her at the very last time, right before rotations and taking the USMLE, hey, come work with me, you'll make more money. So she ended up coming to work with me. She ended up helping me build this entire empire that I have. And if I would have failed on that, I would have felt horrible and I would have carried that for the rest of my life. So that was a humongous gamble that I took.
And motivation, I'm
So,
imagining, right?
dude, humongous pressure, especially right in the beginning, that I have to make this work. So she came on because at that point, like I was building these businesses and I was getting overwhelmed. Like when I had 100 houses on the lawn route, like I need help sending out the bills. I need help doing the schedule. I need help setting up the route. I need help making sure people are paying, non-paying, people coming and going, scheduling, estimates, things like that. And then I started taking on the tree service, and now we have tree service estimates. Now we have corporate accounts, and now we have all of this stuff. And like I'm pretty good at a lot of stuff. I'm not good at all the paperwork stuff. I mean, I could do it, but paying bills doesn't make me money. Paying bills doesn't drive revenue. So, like, if I could go out and do the tree service and at the end of the day, knock on two houses as we're driving back home and take out two dead palm trees and make an extra $600 in an hour and a half, I'm up 600. If I come straight home and start filling out checks and making sure our paperwork is good, or this bill that comes in, I mean, every single day we get a bill. You get a bill for insurance, you get a bill for this tax, that tax, this tax. I got a tangible tax bill the other day. Like they just keep coming forever. And yesterday, someone broke into one of my other bank accounts. So now my bank account for one of the businesses I have to change because all the vendors have that information. So like at some point, it just never stops. And she is the liaison between all the paperwork and just allowing me to fully focus 100% on making money and driving revenue. That is my sole focus. So her
It's amazing.
her focus is making sure everything stays alive, making sure I stay alive, and also I can get a little bit tough sometimes, and she's the liaison between there's an issue, maybe she could deal with it, and it doesn't have to get to me. Because if it has to get to me, I'm tough sometimes. I'll be honest, I'm tough, but I'm fair. So she is the in between I could deal with this and it doesn't have to go that far, and I can keep all of this running and I can 100% fully focus on making profit.
Yeah. So in the end of the day, what I'm hearing is she's a massive support for what you're doing.
Could not do it without her. 1000% could never do any of this without her. I would get
And
bogged down with paperwork and I wouldn't be able to do anything.
and I think I've talked about this recently, but the support aspect of what people do is important to understand, because you are a man who is accomplishing an astonishing amount of success in your business, right? In multiple businesses, and I think it's worth discussing that and worth pointing
Well,
out that you have a support, you have a cheerleader in your corner, you have someone who's like there to allow you to
absolutely.
do what you do best and complement your say weaknesses, and
Absolutely.
that is important.
And the best thing that she ever told me was something that she never told me. She never told me that's enough. She never told me we're good. She never told me that. She knows I wake up and I do everything that I enjoy all throughout the day. I love talking about reselling. That's why I'm here talking to you. I
Yeah.
love going out and knocking on doors and cutting down a palm tree and making $250 and then running the stump grinder over. I love doing that. I love finding something in the garbage and selling it on eBay for $100. I love doing that. I love taking money out of thin air and putting it into my pocket. That's my favorite thing in the world. And cutting down a tree, a dead palm tree, is taking money out of thin air and putting it into your pocket. Finding something at the thrift store is taking money out of your air and putting it in your pocket. So a long time ago, she could have told me, "Hey, we're good. We're not in the same position anymore. You don't have to do all this stuff." And then she could have switched up on me, and then maybe we would have an issue because I'm still ready to rock and roll. And maybe she might not be ready to rock and roll, but she knows all this stuff that I do makes me happy. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to do it all. Like, to do all of this 7 days a week, you have to love what you do. Like, if I hated any aspect of this, I would not do it. But everything that I do open to close 7 days a week is what I want to do. And she allows me the freedom to do that. And, I'm pretty much 100% black and white. There's no gray area with me. And I'm also a little bit overwhelming. So, like, whenever I do like have some downtime and like I get a little bit annoying, she just goes, just get back to work. You just go do your work. And then I get to go do my work again. So like it's a beautiful relationship. It's a beautiful arrangement.
That's amazing. I love that. Shout out to everybody else. Everyone else's support people out there, people who are supporting
Yeah,
someone. I think it's
very
important.
important.
It comes back to giving, give support and you will get support. So just
But
remember that
also
one.
something important real quick though. If I'm going to take all of this time and do this, I have to be able to produce results. And if I was taking all this time and not showing her the results, then that's a different conversation. So like if I sit in here with you for 4 hours and I go outside and she go, how'd the podcast go? And we go, oh, we just talked. We didn't even press the record button. She has every right in the world to be pissed. Or if you're an eBay seller and you spend 8 hours today and your spouse says, hey, how'd today go? And you go, I didn't quite get around to listing. Then you're going to have issues. But if you spent 8 hours and you have 8 hours worth of results, it's much more easy to get support after that. So if you're going to take the time away or take the time for yourself, you have to have results if you want people to respect your time and respect your hustle and respect what you're doing.
Yeah. And I think there's an aspect too of being a team and a unit, right? Like it seems like you guys are committed together, you're working as a team, you're driving towards the same goals. Whereas in my own experiences, like it hasn't always been like that with me and my wife. I'll be straight up.
It's
Like
hard. Yeah.
there's
It's
been
hard.
time when she wants to drive this way and I'm like, well, we got to drive that way. Or she's like
Yeah.
feeling a way about my success and not feeling that she's with me on the success. And
Yeah.
that can be complicated as hell for a relationship, man. So
It's hard. And then you get into a weird dynamic of like boss and coworker. Like it's very difficult, and it is a fine balancing point. And it just takes work. It takes communication, and
Yeah.
you have to have those expectations, and you also have to have those boundaries. And it's very difficult working with a spouse. Um, but like you said, as long as you have the grand prize, and you both try to work as best as possible towards it, two is always going to be better than one in that aspect.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so quick last touch on your portfolio. Can you speak to like the gross revenues of maybe your whole thing, or rough estimates, or like which department brings you the most gross revenue? Which
The tree
business?
service, yeah, tree service, because I have huge corporate accounts for that, and also when hurricanes come through, like when a hurricane hit Panama City a couple of weeks or a couple of years ago, we did $250,000 in 10 days. Like
Wow.
ridiculous amount of money in the tree service industry. There's also a ridiculous amount of cost and upkeep too, because those machines are crazy expensive.
Yeah.
But all the businesses, aside for the brick and mortar store, they all do over $1 million. eBay does $2 million, but with clothing total, with eBay, whatnot, wholesale, and the brick and mortar store, it's $5 million a year.
Nice. Amazing.
Yeah.
All right. So something we've kind of already talked about a little bit, but I want to dive deep into is time management. I've heard from, well, obviously you must be good at your time management because the amount that you're able to accomplish, all these businesses that you run. Um, and, you've mentioned on another podcast that I heard you talking about your son. He doesn't per se want to go into this business because he sees you grinding out like 20 hours a
That's
day or
my
something.
opinion. That's my opinion. Yeah.
Yeah. And that is an insane hustle. So I guess I want to know, what's the motivation here? Like, what is it about you and your life, or how your brain works, that keeps you grinding 20 hours a day, keeps you grinding like probably most days? And how do you manage your time so that you can accomplish all this stuff? And like, how do you not burn out?
I don't know, man. Like I thought everybody was like this, honestly, at first. But like as I'm starting to talk to more, like the only reason why I did 120 listings every single day, because I thought every other reseller was doing 100 listings every single day, and that turned out not to be the truth. So I don't know. I What I know is that every single day I want to put forth my best effort as soon as my feet hit the ground, and I want to be productive all throughout the day. Now, I don't spend a lot of time watching TV. I don't spend a lot of time doing anything extracurricular that is not going to be positive or be beneficial. I don't see the value in that personally. Now, my wife, she loves to watch, Game of Thrones and stuff like that. Great for her. She needs to unwind sometimes, and that's her personality. But for me, if I'm going to watch TV, it's going to be something educational to kind of make myself better. And I really don't know where that comes from or how that came about, but um, it probably came from just watching my mom. And I grew up single parent house. Me, my mom, my brother. My mom was a waitress my whole life at Denny's most of the time, so you can imagine like the money wasn't flowing. And for a large portion of my life, my mom went to work at 2 o'clock in the afternoon till 10 p.m. at night, and then worked at 11 p.m. at night and came home at 7 o'clock in the morning. So my mom worked from 10 in the afternoon till 7 in the morning, woke us up for school, took us to school, slept while we were at school, and that was the only time I saw my mom. I only saw my mom to wake me up and take us to school. That was the only time.
And then
She
when you
wasn't
got
there for
home, she was
dinner.
at work. Yeah.
She was at work because she left at 2. We got out of school at 2 at elementary school, or 2:45 in high school, and that's not good for a high schooler to come home and there's no parent. Like I lived alone during high school, and we were rocking and rolling. And but as I grew up, I saw the amount of hustle that my mom did, and I also knew, because I've also had a lot of tough times too as a young adult, and I figured out that like nobody is gonna come save you, and like you have to be responsible for your own things. And I've had very, very, very difficult times. Um, I've had huge obligations due to those difficult times. And the only thing that got me out of those and solved that problem was money. And I learned that if you can write a check for the problem, you don't have the problem anymore. So money solves a lot of problems outside of, getting cancer or falling ill. And even if you got a couple bucks, you probably have a better opportunity. So being able to write that check, solve that problem, alleviates all the stress. And I guess seeing my mom, seeing her hustle her whole life, that's just kind of what I was born into, bred into. And, you know, luckily for me, we were fortunate enough to have this opportunity of selling stuff online, taking that money and doing other things with it. But I think that I just always try to put forth my best effort every single day, and then just do the best that I can. Because like last night, I woke up at 3:30 in the morning, and I'm still awake. I went to bed at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, but like nobody knows that I'm here giving my best effort. Like I'm dead tired right now, but nobody knows that. And every single time I do a call for the group, I'm tired, but nobody knows that. I'm putting forth my best effort. I can go be tired by myself. I can't be tired here with you. And I can't be tired for the people that are listening. And just that little extra amount of effort, that little extra mile that most people won't go. I think if you do that day in and day out, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, that truly does compound. A little extra amount of effort absolutely compounds if you do it over time.
Quick intermission because we have a word from our sponsor, F as in Frank Vintage.com. If you guys want to go shop vintage clothing, as always, for the listeners of this show, you guys get 30% off with code VTG and stuff. Matt, make sure you put that on the screen right here. If not, it's down in the show notes. And that's F as in Frank Vintage.com, 30% off. We have 3,000 amazing vintage items on there for you to shop. T-shirts, sweatshirts, outerwear, snapback hats. And we also have the full Yeezy Gap unreleased collection on there with a sick promo right now. Three Yeezy Gap tees valued at $60 each for $60. So you get 3 tees right now for the price of one. Low cost of $60. Go check out FSandFrankVintage.com. Link down below.
So I love that. Thank you for sharing that story with us about your childhood. One thing I want to touch on though is you're saying like the stress. Money alleviates the stress, and I do think that to some degree that's true. But I think on a lot of levels that's not true. And for me, it hasn't played out like that. Like because there's always the next thing you're going for, and money. Having all these businesses and having more money can also bring a lot of stress, right? So
That's problems,
brings
yeah.
you a lot more stress too. So talk about that. Like, of course, like not having money to pay a bill and having money to pay a bill is going to be better. Having money to pay the bill is better, of course. It's going to alleviate that problem, but it comes with lots of other stresses. So like,
Mm-hmm.
how have you
It
found
absolutely
that?
does. But like the difference between like once upon a time in my life for a long time, several years when I worked at CVS, I used to have $4 to get me through the rest of the week. And my decision for the rest of the next 7 days was either bag of chips or a soda. I couldn't have both.
Wow.
So that was before I unlocked the potential to go out and create money. Now that I can go out and create money, my stress about money, I never stress about money anymore.
Because
And
it's almost about just knowing that you can do it and you are
yeah,
doing it, but not even the fact that you are doing it. It's that you can do it if you need to do it is
have the ability.
alleviating the stress. Yeah.
Absolutely have the ability. Like you can go on Craigslist free section and you can go get a lazy boy and you can sell that thing for $40 today.
Yeah.
Like
Totally.
you can go on bulk scrap pickup route and you can find stuff in people's garbage that they're throwing away. You can put on Craigslist, you could sell it. You could put on OfferUp, you could sell it. You can find a couple of weeks ago, my wife and I we were out for a morning walk and I saw a Cabbage Patch doll laying on top of someone's trash. I open it up and there probably was 40 pounds of Playmobil toys from the 90s. I ran home, got the car, took one picture. I sold the Playmobil for $102.50 on auction 1 week. Didn't sort them, didn't do nothing, took a picture. I sold the Cabbage Patch doll for $19.99. It was signed by Xavier Roberts. And then there was a Slight toy in there that I sold for another $19.99. Because I need the money? No, but because the opportunity is there. And like walking around, made $150. And just that opportunity in America, like the amount of waste, the amount of overabundance in America, you can go, anyone can wake up on Saturday and Sunday, hit a flea market, hit a garage sale, and you can find items for $1. And you can go home and you can sell those for 10, you can sell those for 20, you can sell those for 50. Everyone listening to this has bought something for $1 and sold it for 100. So why don't we do that every single day? Why don't every single weekend we go to a flea market, we go to a thrift store, go with $1, turn it into $20, and then go back next week with $20 and go get 20 more opportunities. And then go back after that with $200 and go get 200 opportunities. Once you realize that you can produce money, that's when all of my stress went away.
Yeah, it's great to hear. This is it's a mindset shift versus anything else, and it's the ability for you to see the potential, know that you're capable of it, and open your mind to like infinite possibility of what's out there.
And it's
And I think,
everywhere. Because, dude, I went
yeah,
to the gas station a couple weeks ago and they had a bin of hats, $5.99 each or 3 for 15. Inside of that bin, there were a bunch of PGA Tour hats that sell on eBay for $20. I went and bought gas and made $100 profit. It's literally everywhere. It is everywhere.
yeah, you just have to be open to it and be seeing those opportunities. So you're right. That will definitely change your life. And I think that goes for any industry, not just reselling industry. It's about seeing the opportunities, looking for the opportunities, and like believing they're going to come. That's awesome. So I want to jump. We've kind of bounced around, but I want to kind of go back to the beginning. Where did this start for you? How did you find reselling? Give us sort of the story of the beginning of eBay for you, and maybe like what was the first thing you ever sold. That was one of the questions actually from my guy Paddle Niagara, one of my good friends. He said like, what was the first thing you ever resold?
All right. So, when I was 18 years old, I got a job at CVS. I also had a job. I also had a kid at 18 years old. I was a single dad pretty much the entire time. I worked at CVS for 5 years. And during the time I worked at CVS, I went to a vocational school and got my A plus computer degree for computer repair. And I also got my N plus computer degree for network repair. Um, right after that, you have these degrees. And what does every job want? Every job wants experience. Great. Okay, so now I have these degrees, now I need the experience. So I ended up getting a job at Circuit City. And Circuit City used to be like Best Buy. And Best Buy has the Geek Squad. Circuit City had Fire Dog, which was their equivalent. Great. Get a job at Circuit City. I was balling. I was making $16 an hour, more money than I ever seen in my life. 2 weeks
Nice.
later, Circuit City filed for bankruptcy.
Oh
And at
man.
that point, we were no longer insured to fix the computers in our version of Geek Squad. So we had to call every single customer and have them pick up their computers. People used to come in and go, well, I don't know who's going to fix my computer now. I've always brought it here, or I don't want to go to Best Buy. I don't like it over there. So I started giving people my phone number. So that's how I built the computer business, was because Circuit City closed and we had 300 computers in the bench that I had to give back to customers. So I gave everyone my phone number, and that's how the computer business started. But during the liquidation process, everything gets marked down 10% per week until it's essentially free. And then you sweep the floor and Circuit City closes. As an employee at these places that close down, a liquidator comes in from a third party company, and their job is to maximize revenue. So by them maximizing revenue, they sell everything that's not screwed to the wall. And even if it is screwed to the wall, they sell it. So there was a tote of miscellaneous TV remotes that they couldn't match up with TVs, and they were trying to sell the tote for $20. My friend Conrad said, "Yo, let's buy this tote. We can sell these on eBay." I knew nothing about eBay at that time. So we bought the tote. I was helping him list on his account, and we split the money. And some of these TV remotes were current year. They were selling for $70, $80, like plasma screen remotes, replacements. They were selling great. And I was like, wow, this is crazy. And then I forgot about eBay. And then a year or so later, I had a T-Mobile Sidekick, and the screen broke. So I needed a new phone, but I couldn't afford a brand new T-Mobile Sidekick, because back then, if you had to buy a phone outside of contract, dude, they whacked you. So I couldn't afford it. So I go on Craigslist and I look up T-Mobile Sidekicks, and then I also looked on eBay and looked up T-Mobile Sidekicks. On eBay, they were selling for $75 pre-owned. On Craigslist, they were selling for $35 pre-owned. So I said, okay, I can't afford a T-Mobile Sidekick. I can't afford a new phone. Let me buy one from Craigslist, sell it on eBay, and then buy my phone essentially for free. So I bought a T-Mobile Sidekick for $35. I put it on eBay. It sold for $70 the same day. And in my head, before I knew the numbers, I thought I doubled my money, 35 to 70. I said, bang, double my money. Technically speaking, I didn't because they have fees. But in my head, I thought I'd double my money in a couple of hours. So I went back onto Craigslist and started scooping up all the phones locally that were 35, and I was selling them to a worldwide audience for 70. And I used to do that like crazy. And that's when I figured out the arbitrage of the local market versus a worldwide market. So the first item that I sold on eBay that kind of unlocked this arbitrage opportunity was a T-Mobile Sidekick that I listed and sold within a couple of hours on eBay for full price and made my phone free. And then I started going out and getting the Blackberries, like the 8320s. Like this is way back. The Blackberries, the T-Mobile Sidekicks. I started doing iPhones. And then they came out with the ESN IMEI numbers where you could sell me your phone, perfect working condition. I can pay $100 for your iPhone. I come home, I list it, I send it to the customer. A week later, you report your phone stolen. Now the customer has a stolen phone, even though when I bought it, it was in perfect working condition. So during this time, my kind of, cell phone arbitrage business was kind of, in a real precarious position because they were coming out with these numbers that renders a phone useless weeks, months after you purchased it. So I was down bad, needed money, and I started selling my own clothes from high school. And the very first item that I listed of my own was an Andre Reed Buffalo Bills champion jersey. And for whatever reason, as fate may be, I listed it the same week that he went into the Hall of Fame. And I sold that Andre Reed Buffalo Bills champion jersey for $78.88. So that's where my name comes from, tech and sports, because I used to sell the phones and I used to sell jerseys. And when I was doing really well with the jerseys, my wife had the idea to go to the thrift store. And then we started thrifting, and then I started branching out from jerseys to jackets to sweaters to shirts to button ups, and then becoming an expert in all things clothing. And then the tech faded away because you don't need instructions to use a shirt. There's no 24/7 never ending tech support like when you sell a laptop on eBay. It doesn't break in the mail. And if someone doesn't want it, they can send it back. You could resell it. Where if in electronics, sometimes they break in the mail. They need 24/7 customer service, even though that's not part of the gig. People will write you 6 months later and say, hey, my computer's running slow. What can you do for me? And you're like, I just sold the computer to you, but now you're involved in that. So shirt, clothing, um, much less customer service, no testing, no parts or pieces, no cords. The only thing you have to do for that is become an expert. You have to know that that item that you found on the pile on the ground is special because of this, and you have to have that knowledge and be able to process it. Um, and that's where the name came from. That's the origin story on eBay. And then I was off to the races after that.
So it hasn't even been that long that you've been doing this. How have you been able to learn so much about clothing, and not just vintage specifically? We're talking just general clothing,
Yeah.
general used clothing, brand knowledge, what makes something valuable, what to look out for. Like, how has your journey been in becoming so knowledgeable in that? Because the only way you can get all the things you need to make this store a success is to have that knowledge.
Yeah. So I've been at this every single day of my life for 15 years. Like, never took a day off up until probably 3 months ago. 3 months ago, my wife and I, we took our first day off. Before that, we worked every single day on all of our businesses for 15 years. But every single day, I was committed and still am committed to going in the solds, going in the actives, looking at trends, looking on Instagram, looking at accounts like yours, and just seeing what's going on, committing things to memory, and then also going down these rabbit holes. So, like, you could search Polo Ralph Lauren. There's a million results. You scroll through the searches and you say, okay, this looks interesting. Let's see this keyword. Okay. And then you start seeing these keywords continuously pop up. And on those keywords, that's where you go down the rabbit hole. So for polo, you look at that. Eventually, you're going to run into a polo country, and it's going to sell for great money. You open up a new tab, you start studying polo country. Eventually, you're going to run into RLX. You open up a new tab, you start studying RLX. Eventually, you're going to run into, a sweater with a bear on it. You open a new tag or a new tab, now we're polo bear. Eventually, you're going to run into something with an Indian head on it. You open up a new tag, Indian head. Eventually, you'll run into purple label. You'll run into cashmere. You'll run into double RL. You'll run into all of these things. And from there, you start building your brand Rolodex. And you can do this for every single brand. You can go on eBay right now, search Nike shirt, millions of results. But you'll start to see the Rafa Bull. Why does the Rafa Bull from that tennis player sell for more money? We need to figure it out. You'll start seeing Roger Federer stuff. Why does that sell for more money? We need to figure out. You'll start seeing Prefontaine. Why does it sell? We need to figure out. You'll see the pinwheel tag. You'll see the blue tags made in Japan. You'll run into Jordan stuff. You'll see the over-the-shoulder Jordan shoe shirt. You'll run into Hoop Heroes. You'll run into the Playground series. You'll run into all of the Spike Lee stuff. You'll run into all of this stuff if you sit down and you look at the solds, and you have to commit it to memory. You have to. So that way, I can look on your back rack and I can identify as many pieces as possible. And I already know what I can pay for them, what it's going to sell for, how long it's going to take to sell. And that is the key. And on one of my videos, I'm at Disney World, and I casually, off the top of my head, call out 1,000 bolos in a video. So I'll see the little rat statue from Ratatouille. That could be a bolo. Biker mice from Mars. Those vintage toys from the 80s. Those sell. Biker mice from Mars shirts. Those sell. You see a silly statue of a cat on Sleeping Beauty. Scratch the cat for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Pause it right now. Look it up. That's $1,000 figure. Like, we have to know this stuff, and we have to know the stuff to look out for. And clothing has bolos in every single brand. Some brands, surface level, not good to sell. But if you get the correct items inside of that brand, those turn into 100% sell-through items, and those items are good to sell.
Yeah. Bolo, I watched your videos, and you're like on vacation or something with your fam, having fun at Disneyland, and you're literally spouting off bolos. You got to check that video. Yep. Bolo, for people that don't even know what that is I didn't even know what that term was. I knew the term because I hear it all the time, but it's be on the lookout. Yeah, These are items you want to find. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess it's your Rolodex of these bolos is crazy. I guess everyone has their own Rolodex of what they look out for, but it's the breadth and the width of what that allows you to find more, right? There's people Absolutely. Who just stick to these niches and they miss opportunities. But I find it very interesting. Like I find it interesting to learn about things outside of clothing now, like the trinkets and the weird things that sell for big money that, maybe one day I'll run into at the thrift. So, can you tell us about can you give us a couple non-clothing bolos?
What a tease. That is the end of our free 45-minute version of the show. So what are you going to do now? All you got to do is go jump on the Patreon, link down below. Or you can subscribe right here on the YouTube channel. There's also a link down below to join the YouTube channel. Join the YouTube channel or jump on the Patreon, and you can continue this episode because it goes for a full 3 hours long. Actually, 3.5 hours long, this episode. There's so much more to learn. The best stuff is yet to come. Tech spills it all. He gives so much value in this episode. You will make money hands down if you go and listen to the rest of this episode. You will be so motivated to go crush it in your own life, just listening to what this man has done, and what he tells will help you do the same in your life. So again, Patreon link is down below. It's $5, but you get a free week trial, or you can join right here on the YouTube. That's all you got to do. At the very least, please sub to the channel, like this video, share it with your friends, whatever you want to do. I appreciate you guys listening, even if you don't hop on the Patreon. Thank you for supporting the show. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you, Tech, for coming on. And make sure you sub so I can see you guys on the next one.